Mike Asnault, and welcome to the Arts Council of Greater Baton Rouge's AC23 Plus Artist Legacy Series podcast. This is a series where we talk to artists who are doing amazing things in the areas of the arts, including performance, education, production, as well as arts advocacy. We record this series in the Virginia and John Nolan Black Box Studio, as well as in the Jan and Bill Grimes recording studio here at the Carrie Siraj Community Arts Center. Be sure to visit artsbr.org for more information on all the great things we are doing here at the Arts Council of Greater Baton Rouge. Hope you enjoyed the podcast series, and thanks for tuning in.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah, bro.
Ladies and gentlemen, the one and only Clarence Johnson III on the saxophone.
All right.
Pleasure to have you here,
Oh
Clarence.
man, glad to be here. Thanks for having me do this, man. Pleasure.
That tune that we played was Turnaround, and that was written by, that was Ornette Coleman, wasn't it?
I believe so. Either I thought McCoy or Ornette, one of them.
I have to do my homework on that
Yeah,
one,
yeah,
but
yeah.
one of those guys.
Mm-hmm.
And, well, we go back a long way. We were
Yes.
just trying to figure this out before we started recording, how long we've known each other, but we were thinking early 90s.
Yeah, somewhere in there.
Probably on a job in New Orleans.
Yeah.
Probably at the Windsor Court.
Yeah.
With back then, I think we were doing quite a few jobs for a lady, a wonderful harpist.
Yes.
Who was working? Does she still work with the LPO?
I believe so.
Rachel Van Ories,
Yes.
who's an amazing musician and would book a lot of jobs around New Orleans, and we would end up on a lot of those
Yeah.
together. Mm-hmm. So, to my good fortune, that's where I got to meet you, and been doing it ever since.
Yes, sir.
So, well, let's kind of tell the audience, these are things I already know, but I want you to kind of express them. So you're originally from?
Yeah. Born and raised in New Orleans. And, actually I actually started on drums.
Oh.
And it was, I guess, around maybe 4 or 5 years old. My father, who was a drummer as well, so he thought the idea of, continuing the legacy, he purchased a percussion, a drum set for me. And, unfortunately, while that was a really cool thing, he also purchased a tool set for me. And this was all for Christmas gifts. Mm-hmm. So the 4 or 5 year old mind at the time somehow thought it a great idea to combine the tool set, little toy toolkit, with the drum set. And it didn't work out as well as...
You're a drum tech at 5 years old?
Pretty much. And next thing you know, there's busted heads all over the place, and it's kind of pretty much just destroyed the set, man. And my dad came home and found it like that, and he was none too pleased.
Right.
So he took him away, and that's how I kind of ended up on saxophone a couple of years later.
Now, was the saxophone like kind of the classic scenario where you're joining the school band and?
In a sense, yeah. I had a gentleman, the great Joe Lewis, Joseph Lewis, was one of the most legendary teachers of the New Orleans Archdiocesan program. Mm-hmm. And he came around to the elementary school and had this, he put on a showcase of instruments and recruiting kids. And I'm like, that looks interesting. And I remember at the time my godfather was visiting us, and he was a big saxophone fan, particularly a fan of Gato Barbieri. Okay. And he always talked about, man, if you want to play in a band, that would be great if you play the saxophone. The saxophone is such a, he went on and on and on, Gato. And so upon his suggestion, I picked up the saxophone and started in the 4th grade, and, kind of matriculated through the elementary school and into high school, and was able to turn it into a college scholarship to further my music education, and kind of took it from there.
And that was still in New Orleans, right? You went to Loyola.
Went to Loyola University for undergrad, and later returned back to finish my master's at the University of New Orleans. So completely New Orleans educated, from the academics to the music scene.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and of course it shows, and what I mean by that is obviously the great instruction you have, because we know a lot of the same professors at both schools. Mm-hmm. But I've always felt like musicians that are in working in New Orleans, but especially ones who grow up in New Orleans, which I didn't have the privilege of doing. I just kind of got to it later, I guess more late teens. But when I hear you play, and musicians like yourself at a certain level, you guys know so much music. Just from close to our hearts is jazz, but New Orleans, a working New Orleans musician pretty much has to play everything.
Yeah, and I mean that's because in New Orleans there is everything. I mean it's the true musical gumbo. So not only you say you have to play it, but it's kind of natural because we grew up with it.
Yeah.
You know, all the music from the traditional jazz with Jelly Roll and Louis Armstrong and the Mardi Gras Indians, all of the heritage that comes from that music, and all the way from the African slaves from Congo Square, the rhythms that kind of permeate through the city at that time, and it just even through centuries, it just kind of carried over to today. Right. So you have all of this music, and New Orleans certainly being one of the melting pots of common today's music, R&B, blues. So you have all of that stuff mixed in the New Orleans musical tradition that we grew up with. So it's kind of natural that we, gravitate towards that.
Right. And a lot of people sometimes I think forget that so much of those roots of those different genres you mentioned really did start in New Orleans. Yes. Like when you think of Fats Domino.
Fats Domino.
What do you want to call it? The beginning of R&B, the beginning of rock and roll?
Right, exactly. R&B, rock and roll, funk. When you start talking about the uptown scene with the Neville Brothers and the Meters. And, when you mention blues, certainly blues had its origins in Mississippi in the Delta, but, that's, made its way down to New Orleans too. So, New Orleans was a player in all of the musical genres that you can even think of, even when you think of today with hip-hop. Certainly a different kind of scene that New Orleans also contributed to it. So it's musically universal.
Right. Right. Well, since we're talking about Clarence right now, I want to mention some accolades with Clarence that I think are obviously very impressive, but just important for people to know. So Clarence, CJ3, as I like to call him, two-time winner of the Offbeat magazine's Best of the Beat, Best Saxophone Award, 2 times.
Yeah, man.
Lifetime Achievement, Cultural Ambassador Heartbeat Award from Offbeat magazine, and Positive Vibrations Foundation in 2017. You have played with so many people, and just to name a few, let's see here. Delphio Marcellus Quintet, New Orleans Jazz Orchestra, Dr. John, one of my heroes.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Neville Brothers, Jimmy Smith, David Fathead Newman, John Scofield, members of the Meters, and in different ensembles, you backed up Aretha Franklin, The Temptations, Kirk Franklin, Gladys Knight in the OJs, Billy Preston, and Wynton Marsalis. I mean, you could just retire right now. It's ridiculous.
Oh, man. It's been fun.
And I'm sure there's many people not on this list.
There's a couple. There's a few others. But I mean, that's
Jose Feliciano. Because we had a session the other day with.
That's right. A couple of weeks ago, I got to add him to the list now, man.
Update your bio.
Mike Esnote. I play with Mike Esnote, a fabulous piano player. But that's.
Make sure you put me after
No. That's the wonderful thing about music, man. I mean, you never stop growing, particularly with all of the different types of artists you get a chance to work with, learn from, all of those musical giants. I don't consider it working. I consider it just learning from him.
Right.
Especially a couple of weeks ago, with just seeing how, how you say, I forget how you say his name.
The singer on the song?
Yes, yeah.
That was Raymond Arroyo.
Yeah, I mean, he brought in Felicio.
Jose Feliciano.
Jose, yeah, and just watching him do his thing still at that age. That's the other thing. Yeah. It's so encouraging, man, because he doesn't let any challenges slow him down. Mm-hmm. He still sounds great at that age, and music defies age, man.
I agree.
Yeah.
And what I was checking out on that session that, to your point, was inspiring to me was not only what you just said, but his enthusiasm.
Yes.
I mean, he would just just loves to play music.
That's
it's
right.
just, it comes out of him.
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
And I remember as a student kind of studying with different people, and especially older musicians, for me it was Alvin Batiste, who, you know, at his age, he was, you know, quite a bit older than,
Sure.
probably in his 60s, I guess, when I got to him. Excuse me. I mean, he would just practice all day long if you let him. You know, he just loved music. And I remember thinking as a 18-year-old, like, man, I'm complaining about having to practice for an hour, and this dude is like practicing 4 hours a day.
Right.
You have to tell him to stop.
Exactly.
And he already has the resume.
Yes. You know, you mentioned Alvin Batiste. Another person in that same line of legends is, we just lost him a few months ago, Edward Kid Jordan.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, this guy, he literally walks around with the horn on, you know, hanging off. He always practiced. I hear stories, and you've heard the same stories of that household when they were growing up. You know, Marlon, Stephanie, Rachel, and it just a whole
Can
music.
you imagine being in that house?
Oh my goodness, man! It's a wonderful thing. But I mean, that's where you know you're called to do this work. That's where you know you're called to this profession, because it's not a thing where you, oh man, I have to practice. It's a thing where, oh man, I gotta practice. I want to practice. Yeah. I gotta reach this. I'm constantly.
Growing.
That's right. Constantly reaching and growing.
Yeah. Yeah. Speaking of one of the family members in there, Kent Jordan,
yes,
the flautist and educator. He constantly amazes me because he'll I don't see him very often, but nevertheless he'll text me and he'll be like, "Hey man, have you checked out this Ravel score?"
Yeah.
You know, just by receiving a text like that, I'm like, it inspires me. I'm like, man, this is a guy who's like all of us. Some people might call it the disease. I don't know. The blessing.
Yes, that's what I call it.
But we just can't. It's like a need. It's a thirst for constantly learning.
Exactly.
Being inspired by our peers.
That's right.
You know?
That's right.
Well, we're talking about New Orleans. Let's do. Can I get you to play? I'm throwing this at you. Let's do. Do you know what it means to miss New Orleans?
Oh yeah. Of course.
You're not going to miss it because you're about to go back there.
Yep. After we finish this.
I'll miss it.
Yeah, man.
Yes, indeed. Do you know what it means to miss New Orleans?
Yeah.
That reminds me of, I kind of forgot, because it was a while back, but we used to do quite a few duet gigs.
Yes.
Mostly here in Baton Rouge.
Yeah.
Maybe almost entirely here in Baton Rouge. Now I think about it. But we used to play a lot of the place in town, still around, called Sullivan.
Yeah, man.
And those were, man, you know, sometimes those were like 4 or 5 hour jobs.
They go with 5-hour jobs, man.
But we made it just the two of us.
Yeah.
Just kind of made it a lot of fun.
That was one of the songs we played.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
You know, the great thing about those jobs, man, it was a multi-year run, and a couple of things. Number one, it was one of those instances where those 5 hours felt like 2.5.
Mm-hmm.
You know, man, because we dug into so many, so much music, and you know, it definitely was a learning ground, like a little. You know, we experimented with so many things, dealt with so much music. It certainly, I grew from that gig, man. I grew from that run.
Yeah.
So it certainly was a nice memory. Mm-hmm.
Well, I always like to joke with, when I'm talking to other musicians about Clarence Johnson III, I'm quick to point out, because I put you in a very, I don't mean to put you in a funny spot when I say this, but it is sincere. A very, very small category of people that I really do consider to be a musical genius.
Oh, wow.
And I don't say that lightly.
I appreciate that, man.
So, and there's many reasons I can say that, but one I like to bring up is just funny to me is we would be doing those gigs sometimes, and you know we'd been playing together for some time at that point, and you know we had done jobs where you were playing my music, and I was playing your music, and then I just remember distinctly one time playing some probably complicated jazz tune like Giant Steps, something like that, and then you started quoting something which you like to do, and I'm sitting there, I'm playing, I'm like, man, what is that? You're laughing, you have the ability to kind of play and laugh at the same time. And then when we finished, I said, man, what was that? And you're like, oh, that was one of your tunes. And I'm like, how in the, number one, how do you remember the tune? Because I don't.
Oh, my goodness.
And that was a tune you hadn't played probably 2-3 years.
Yeah.
And then how did you fit it over Giant Steps?
Well, I think that's part of the great musical puzzle that is music, man. I mean, if you challenge yourself and, kind of push yourself to those kind of heights, and I mean, let's not kid ourselves, man. You one of the baddest too. So when you write so much material and it's so cool, it sticks with you. So that's how I remember it. Is so cool. So
I appreciate that. But
yeah.
Still, nevertheless, I'm like, how did you make that work?
Oh boy.
Well, in addition to obviously being a wonderful player, you have been an educator for quite a few years.
Sure.
And we've actually taught together.
That's right.
But tell the listeners kind of how you got into music education and some of the different environments that you've taught at.
Well, the thing about music education, it's important to me because of growing up here in New Orleans. There's such a cultivating spirit, particularly with the past generation of musicians. They were very good with nurturing and taking young cats under their wing and kind of showing them the ropes. So that was important for them to pass down this lineage to us. Well, I'm doing my part, passing down the lineage to the next generation. So, I've done quite a few clinics, different guest conducting situations with all-state, all-star groups. I've certainly taught at the I've been fortunate to teach at all of the levels from elementary, middle school, high school, all the way to college. So,
because you were, correct me if I'm wrong, you were at LSU for a while.
Let's see, not quite LSU. I was I taught at Loyola first.
Loyola.
and did some teaching at Morehouse and Spelman College in Atlanta, and came back and did some more teaching, at Delgado Community College, different places such as that. And now I am overseeing and running a music program for an online charter school based here in Baton Rouge called University of U Academy.
It's based here, but y'all service the whole state.
We service students from the entire state, yeah.
Right. That's quite an undertaking.
It's cool, man, because the great thing about this music program, particularly being virtual, it not only reaches kids who are available and around the area, but it also reaches those nooks and crannies of the state and the rural parts that kids have a little trouble making it to a brick and mortar school. So we're able to, by virtue of our platform being online, and we're able to reach those kids, and particularly as it relates to serving special needs kids. Because, man, when you have the special needs kids, music really brings out an entire different personality. Yeah. And to see them wake up and kind of explore that's one of the true powers of music at work. And it's such a blessing to see that.
Right, right. Yeah, I've seen that myself. And
yes.
It's the power of music is just amazing.
Yes, sir.
The arts in general, but especially music.
Yeah.
It's so immediate. Well, I'll just say this. I'm so happy when people like yourself are teaching, because I do, and I think you would agree, music especially is such an aural, A-U-R-A-L,
yeah,
art form.
Right.
And it's a language that, yes, you can study the grammar of it via, more of an academic way.
Sure, sure.
Jazz, you can study it in an academic way, but really, when it comes down to it, the only proper way to teach it is for a student to be able to hear it. And if they can hear it from a teacher who actually practices it and does it.
Yeah.
And I'm talking about everything from tone to phrasing to all the subtleties.
Yes.
That you can't really put in a textbook.
Right.
To me, that's why it's so important that people like yourself are educating the next generation.
And, in addition to all of the elements that you just mentioned, it's the idea of teaching by example, showing them how to be a professional. I mean, because you're talking about being, how to present a show, how to present a concert, how to engage in a listening audience.
Right.
Those punctuality, being on time, dressing appropriately, all of that stuff comes into play. It's so much more, as you know, than just learning an instrument. It is learning an entire profession.
Right.
And how to present it. Yeah, man.
Yeah. What was the quote I saw this morning? It was on social media. It was Ron Carter saying something to the effect that, if you're not 30 minutes early, then you're late.
You're late. Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
And it's coming from a guy who's, maybe had one of the longest careers in jazz.
That's right. And you see why.
Yeah.
With that type of philosophy, yeah.
Well, so performer, educator. One thing we haven't talked about, but I'd like to talk about and demonstrate, is you as a composer. Ah. So I had asked you maybe to bring a couple tunes. And I asked you to bring simple ones, and of course, your standard of simple is what I was thinking. But
oh no, it's not bad. You
that's one thing I love about playing with you is you always challenge me. So.
Oh man.
So pick one of these tunes you brought, and I want to play them.
Yeah, we did a nice run through with both of them, man. Which one you like?
Let's start it with this romantic appeal.
Yeah. Yeah, it's 1 and 2. Yeah, a little bossa vibe.
Romantic Appeal by Clarence Johnson III. Beautiful tune. Man.
Thank you, man. Appreciate that.
What, so is there a story behind that tune?
It's just it's funny because sometimes I got to explain it, where some people think it's having to do with some type of court proceeding, you know, but it's it's not that. It's not that. It's just simply the appeal that occurs in the element of attraction to one another, be it with beauty or the spirit of a person, the mind, you know, what they're talking about, you know, just so it's just that natural attraction that occurs in those moments.
Well, I mean, since we're on that subject, so you've been married to Joy.
Yes.
For how many years now?
Oh man, we just celebrated 23 years a couple of months ago.
Congratulations! That's
yeah,
awesome.
Thanks, man.
Awesome. And you have one son.
One son.
And tell us what he's up to.
He is up to, actually, at the moment, let's see, yeah, he's probably in his first class of his senior year at University of Southern Mississippi. Senior year, man.
Old, man.
Yeah, I mean, I told him, man, it's like, man, why you growing up so fast, man? It's like we just dropped you off at kindergarten a couple of months ago, man. Now you, yeah, but nah, yeah. But you know, it's certainly a great ride, such as the experience you had with your son graduating from Tulane. Not too long ago.
I've got the same. It's nothing like children as a good barometer to remind you how fast time is going.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
Yes, indeed. And he's musical, right?
Yeah, he's media arts.
Yeah.
Media arts. So yeah, he's definitely going to be going into that field on probably behind the booth or behind a soundboard or some kind of way. So yeah, he's definitely got some opportunities for him. Mm-hmm.
Well, as a composer, you've written a lot of music and you've done recordings.
Yes.
So tell us what, I know the answer to some of these, but I'm going to ask you anyway. So what are some of the recordings that you've done under your own name?
A couple of them. The main one is Watch Him Work, and that was self-produced, written, all the arrangements and everything. And the great thing about that record was it was kind of, you hear this kind of story with quite a few artists when they're under a label and they got to go in their direction, but once they break away from that, they can do what they want to do. And that was kind of the story with this one. Having a chance to do the music that was always near and dear to my heart and, where I truly was.
Sure.
So, that one was a big one, and certainly got to give you props for helping me out with that, doing a lot of the orchestration, particularly on one of those songs, Beyond Words. That was a good one. With all of the strings and everything. So that was awesome to work with you on that. Before that, I had a couple of releases out dedicated to you, and that was way back in '98. And I also did a duet with a fabulous pianist from Armenia, released in the same year. I think it was just self-entitled Clarence Johnson and Vahak Petian.
Oh, I remember.
Yeah, Love for Sale.
Amazing pianist.
Oh man, yeah, he was a joy to work with. And then I'm working on a couple of singles. I released Wade in the Water, an arrangement that I did. Released that a couple of years back. You were on that as well. And working on some singles and new recordings that'll be released pretty soon as we speak. So.
Okay. Yeah, and if I remember right, that first album you did, correct me if I'm wrong, I could very well be, but did you use the pianist, was Jim Pryor on that?
Yeah, man, Jim Pryor was on that.
I remember, he was in Baton Rouge.
That's
for a
right.
minute,
That's
studying
right.
with Alvin Batiste.
That's right.
And I just remember hearing him and going, what the heck? Amazing pianist.
Oh man, he is a remarkable talent, man.
And I haven't seen him since around that time.
Yeah, I think he's somewhere in New York.
Okay.
I believe working with some music director for something. But I know he's doing well.
Yeah. Well, at some point, Jim, if you see this, reach out.
Yeah.
To me. I think both of us would like to.
Yeah, man, definitely.
Yeah. Well, beautiful. Let's play another tune.
Sure.
So this one that you brought in.
Yeah.
This simple tune that's 3 pages long. There you are. It's called. Well, did you change the name or is it?
I did change the name. The name of this one. This is one of the ones that will be officially released in the next coming weeks, and this is entitled "True and Faithful Treasure."
Okay. And remind me how we feel on this one.
Yeah, it's pretty much straight down. We start. You got the melody at the first 8, and we'll play, and we'll get to the first inning, and go back to A, and I'll do a half, and you do the second half, and take the coda, and do the coda 3 times, or the second half of that page, second page 3 times, and then we'll go on to the last page.
Now, this kind of, I remembered about half of that, but for maybe young students or maybe even older students who are trying to learn more about the whole process of doing this kind of thing, that was essentially, we kind of ran through it a little bit before this recording, but that was essentially our rehearsal.
Yeah, yeah.
And that is the nature of, especially this kind of music, where, there's a, how would you put it? There's kind of there's a blueprint there.
Yeah.
But obviously a lot's going to happen in between all of that. So I guess for up-and-coming musicians, it's good to be aware of that, and to, in this instance, we're reading what you call a lead sheet.
Yeah.
So, which can be intimidating if you're not used to doing that, but at the same time, it can be kind of liberating because it gives you lots of choices.
That's right.
And in this music, we have a little Ghost in the Machine and the lights today, so a little voodoo going on. But it makes it more conducive to the creative process, I think.
Yeah, and of course, that's one of the reasons why it's so important and crucial to continue to work on your reading chops. All of those scales that you practice and all of that sight reading that you do and the rhythms that you study, this is what puts you in a position to be able to do things such as this. Because, this is kind of an example. Literally, we spent about, 10 minutes working on these 2 tunes? That's about it.
Yeah.
Because, Mike has the ability to be able to read and sight read and interpret very well. So that, that's important. And when you find yourself getting calls for different jobs, acts that come to town, looking for a backing orchestra of some sort, in many cases, you get about maybe an hour and a half, 2-hour rehearsal. And as a matter of fact, I remember one time I got called to do a show with the Temptations in New Orleans. We didn't even get a rehearsal. We went in the back of the backstage and just had about a half-hour talk through. Then we go hit the stage and do the show. That's how it goes.
Right. Right. I remember one time just talking about funny situations. And then for me, an intimidating situation. I played one time with Frank Foster. I'm sorry, Frank Morgan.
Frank Morgan, yeah.
My bad. And my friend, our mutual friend Troy Davis, had got me on that job, and he had worked with him maybe once or twice before, and he kind of said, well, you know, there's not going to be a rehearsal.
Yeah.
I said, okay. And in this case, there was no talk through. So he said, we're going to walk up on stage, and Frank's going to be up there, and he's going to, you know, have his horn, you know, amazing saxophonist, and he's just going to start playing. And if he doesn't hear you jump in, he's going to move on to another tune.
Wow.
And that was the gig. So he started out playing a Charlie Parker tune, and, you know, thankfully I knew most of the music. There was one ballad, I can't remember the name of it, but he started playing, and he's just he never looked back at me. He just kept playing, and I didn't want to jump in if I really didn't know it.
Yeah.
So I just was kind of quiet, and he's like, okay. Then he went on to the next thing.
Wow.
Talk about all ears gig.
Yes.
You know?
Yes. That's awesome.
Very organic kind of way of doing the gig.
Yeah.
Anyway, so give me the pulse on this one.
Let's see. Bam, 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 bam. And then again, you got the last 8. Or you can join me in on that melody and on the third page. Yeah. Yep.
I'll be sure to forget that.
Yep. 2, 1, 2, 3.
Beautiful tune as usual, Clarence.
Thank you, man. Appreciate
Absolutely
that.
Gorgeous tune.
Thank you, man.
And
great job on it too, bro.
Well,
I mean, literally, you just saw this thing about an hour ago, and then you playing it like you've been playing it forever, man.
well, I'm glad I had you fooled.
Ah.
Well, I know I can't fool you, so never mind.
Oh man.
Oh, well, thank you. Well, I can't tell you how much it's been a pleasure to have you on this, and
Yeah.
well, what's coming up? Anything? What you got?
I got a couple of things happening. I've been very fortunate to have some performance opportunities in the DFW area, Dallas, Texas, and so I got a couple of nice shows coming up there towards the last part of the last week of August, which is going to be headlined by a Labor Day weekend performance at a place called the Kitchen Cafe, and that's going to be Saturday, September 2nd. So I'll be performing there, the Kitchen Cafe, and 7:30, and you can look it up, or you can check me out on the socials.
Oh, by the way, you have a website?
Yes, working on a website, but I got some socials happening at CJ3Sax. At CJ3Sax, that's the handle to all of the Instagram, the what's the other one? Facebook, and also even TikTok. So you can check me out there, and I'll keep you posted on the latest happenings.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, again, it's been a real pleasure.
Thank you, man. This was awesome. Thanks for having me.
And it's been tradition kind of to play the audience out, so I'm going to see, this is what's so wonderful about working with Clarence. I can just throw anything at him. I'm going to throw a tune that's, I don't know if it's originally a New Orleans tune, but it gets played a lot in New Orleans.
Yeah.
And he's just going to find the key immediately.
Oh, we'll see.
He's going to jump right in. But what tune am I thinking of? Oh, here we go.
Well, see, you doing me like Frank Morgan did you. You just going to start
exactly, yeah.
Yeah, bro.
The Arts Council of Greater Baton Rouge would like to acknowledge our generous sponsors, the Shell Corporation, the National Endowment for the Arts, the Louisiana Office of Cultural Development, and the City of Baton Rouge.